Welcome to the Practice Podcast, a show created by lawyers to help lawyers in life and business without all the complicated lawyer language. Let's welcome Bast Amron founders and your hosts, Jeff Bast and Brett Amron.
Hi, Brett. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic, except that I am recording apart from you, from another location.
We are in separate, undisclosed locations, disclosed to each other, but not to the listener. And so we are recording from afar, but we're recording on a milestone episode here.
Really? What's the milestone?
That was pretty impressive. That's good acting, man. I think Jeff's out in Hollywood. Anyway, it is our 100th episode of the Practice Podcast.
It is hard to believe that we've already recorded 99 episodes.
It is hard to believe that, but in fact, it is true.
Yeah, I'm impressed. It's been a lot of fun. And I actually I took a look through some of I was looking through our Spotify account and our iTunes account on Apple. We have a bunch of nice reviews on Apple, by the way.
As we should.
And it's been a kind of a cool arc, if you will. Like in the beginning, it was just you and I recording. Then we started dabbling with guests and we were a little bit more technical in the beginning. And I think we learned that it's more fun to talk about, broader issues that are more appeal to a broader audience. And I think it's more fun too.
I think what we've learned is that people really want to hear about other people, not you and I, to be honest. Let's call a spade a spade. I mean, I think listenership has increased since we've sort of evolved to more of an interview format over the 100 episodes. That's not to say that we didn't have, some good episodes early on or scattered about with you and I talking about various issues as they were popping up. We started this around the time of COVID hitting and everything shutting down. And we really, I think, started doing that more so to connect with each other, with our audience, with the other members of our team, and just talking about issues that really were at the forefront that we never could have imagined would ever be at the forefront starting in March of 2020.
Yeah, I think that's true. And a lot of people ask us why do you do this podcast? And then you just kind of said it. There's a bunch of reasons. And I think also people want to know, should I be on a podcast? Like, I've had so many people say, well, what's it like? What do you have to do? Do I have to prepare? And so I guess why we do it is, to me, like you said, connect with our contacts, our people that work with us, our clients, our referral partners. It's a better way to get to know someone. Like, to me, if I'm in a networking room or meeting and the person I meet is from afar and they say, hey, we should schedule a Zoom chat or a video chat, you can do that and have a video chat with someone, or you can record a podcast with them. Which to me, it's almost the same conversation we're going to have with someone on the podcast as I would have on a sort of networking connection. Only we're going to record it and share it and publish it and promote that person. And so, what a great way to get to know someone. I think it's fun.
I agree. I like hearing about people's stories, their paths, their journeys to where they are today at the moment that they're sitting with us, being interviewed for that podcast, what their individual journey was, right? Whether it's some personal component to it, a lot of business issues, obviously, entrepreneurial issues, and just, some of their setbacks, some of their wins. And just, it's really great to hear because as you and I know from our time in EO,
you read my mind.
Yeah, you're never alone, right? Like you think you're the only one going through everything, but you come to learn when you actually start talking to people and people are willing to share and you're willing to share that we're not alone and that we all share very similar experiences. And it's nice to hear how others either, made it through, maybe had setbacks, but made it through. And it's nice to share that and connect that way.
Yeah. I mean, all the people that we've had on as guests are people who have found success in some way in their field. A lot of lawyers, but also a lot of business leaders as well.
Yep.
And there's so many ways to learn from other people's experiences, not so much from them lecturing and telling you what to do it this way, don't do it that way, but just like you said, it's an experience share. And, when you mentioned EO, I was thinking about how we share feedback with each other in EO using Gestalt. And that is, we don't tell each other what we should do. We just share experiences. If you're dealing with a problem, I might say, well, I had a similar problem and here's how I dealt with it. And that way everyone in the room can learn. And it's the same thing with the podcast. When someone's telling a story about a difficult decision or a difficult time in their life and how they came through it, everyone can take that story and just relate it to what they're going through. And I'm not sure that was by design, but it's worked out that way as I've reflected on the show.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think that was by design either. And I think it also has allowed us to connect with people that we may not otherwise connect with. It's given us a platform to do that, to give people a platform to come in, to communicate to a larger audience as well. But I agree. I think the evolution of this podcast, I don't think when we started it was ultimately to get to a point where we're sitting interviewing people with these experience shares. But I think ultimately, I know for me, and I think for you, it has evolved to a better place with those experience shares that we can get out to our audience. We can learn more about the people that are sitting in our studio when we're recording, that people learn more about us too. But I think the experience share is what our audience will learn from. And I think that's where, to me, that has increased the listenership, and I think increased the benefit of the podcast itself to the listener, right? People can learn from the experience share, and that's our view, right? People just learn a little, connect with people, because you never know when someone in your contacts or mine or someone who's a listener may connect in some way with a guest and let them connect and let them have a relationship going forward in some form or fashion. And I'd love to hear, by the way, if anybody out there has had that, if they can write in and let us know. We'd love to hear about those stories too. Maybe that can be a future episode, right? Hey, I listened to this podcast with this guest and I reached out to the guest. I connected with that guest and we now have this, great relationship, or we had this great connection. And so, that would be great to hear from our audience too.
Yeah. I love hearing feedback. I don't think we hear enough feedback. I mean, we hear it, occasionally, but rarely does somebody actually write in and respond. I think that I'll say that we've evolved a lot, because I remember in the beginning of the podcast when we decided to start having guests, we were, I'm going to say I'm going to use the word struggling. We weren't struggling, but we had to sit down and try to think of, okay, who should we invite on as guests? And then we started compiling the list, and then it became easy to come up with people as potential guests. But then we got to a point where we've actually had, several times now, people reach out to us and they've heard the podcast, or they encountered it, or they saw it somewhere, and they want to join as guests. And so now people are coming to ask us to join as guests. And so I would encourage anyone that's listening to this right now that hasn't been a guest to just reach out to us and ask, because, we'd love to have more guests, different guests, a variety of backgrounds. And I think there's something to learn from everybody out there.
Yeah. And I don't think it's necessarily right. I think when we started it, we were thinking of we talked about the substantive content, and people can learn from that and pick up that. But the evolution is now more about the experience share and learning from that. Now there's substance in there, right? But it's not you and I just talking about a substantive topic. It is somebody who has had this experience, has gone through it in a journey, talking about their experience, and people learning from that. And I think that, to me, that is a great way to learn. I've learned so much from that over the years, and I think you have too. And so, I see that sort of the next 100 episodes kind of going in that direction as well, continuing that direction, I should say.
I like it. If you think about, the name is the practice. And generally that has a connotation, at least when we speak it, of, the practice of law. But doesn't really have to be the practice of law. It could be any practice that anyone has in life or business or law.
The practice of life.
Yeah. So if we, maybe the next 100 are, just any practice, anything that you do, or anything that you've learned, or, some way in which a guest has grown or evolved in some way.
And I think that from what we've seen in terms of some of the numbers, the biggest response we've gotten is from more like non-substantive, right?
Yeah.
Podcast non-substantive episodes. And, we'll continue to talk about those because for you and I, the business component, the practice of law obviously is super important. Family is super important, but mental and physical health and well-being is very important. And we'll continue to bring in those guests as well and talk about their journeys. And maybe they're professionals, maybe they're not. Maybe they're business owners who have gone through this. Maybe they're just, ordinary people who work and have gone through, these experiences as well. But things that we'll continue to bring to the audience.
Some of the other podcasts that have been top rated have been with international lawyers that we've had abroad.
Yeah.
And so I think, and that's one of the things we realized, we learned from our illustrious marketing and recruiting director, Maylin Minood, who definitely deserves a shout out. But Maylin pointed out that we are in 26 countries, which is really, to me, remarkable. Yeah. I don't think I could even write down 26 countries if you ask me.
Oh, of course you can. Is our furthest guest the gentleman from Mumbai, whose name escapes me?
Yeah, I think he was the farthest away. Yeah.
We actually did a podcast with a guest in India.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool. So let's up. Yeah. So the goals for the next 100, right? Let's double the countries. Let's go to 52 countries. I don't even know if that's possible, but I'll just throw that out there. And, I think just continuing to bring that content so that we get a better connection with our listeners, with our colleagues, but continuing to evolve.
I agree. And I would say for people out there, obviously, if you're listening to this and you want to be on this show, please reach out to us and let's work something out. And also, if you get invited to be on another podcast, do it. Just say yes. Because I think a lot of people are, intimidated by it or whatever, or, I guess, intimidated maybe is the right word, that I don't have anything to say, or, what's the topic going to be? We've had a lot of people reach out to us, some with outlines, some, wanting to have a prep call and expecting that we're going to give them questions in advance. We don't do that. At least we don't regularly do that. So we have done that in the past, but I think the idea of just getting a little uncomfortable is a great way to grow. They say growth happens outside your comfort zone. And so this is one of those instances when you are going to have a conversation with someone and it's going to be recorded and it's going to be published, publicly. It's a little, can be a little nerve-wracking for people. But I think most people, they start talking to us and then, 30 minutes goes by and they're like, wow, that's it. It was over already.
Yeah, I like the format, less formal, just conversation. I think it does flow nicely. It just, like you said, it makes people comfortable and gets to the heart of it, which is really the reason why they're in the chair is their experience and what got them to where they are at that moment.
Yeah, I feel like, you said when, they're in the chair, I feel like we're like a really good dentist. They walk in, you expect, you're anxious, and then all of a sudden it's over and nothing hurt. So,
or, I guess you could also, we're lawyers, right? So you could be a good lawyer who puts somebody in a deposition chair or an interview chair and they leave and they feel good, but, anyway, that doesn't always work.
They don't know that you've extracted some good testimony.
Exactly.
Is that the idea?
Exactly.
It could be like that. 100 episodes. This is episode 100. I think I'm proud of us. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been fun. And I do think, I know you gave a shout out to Maylin, which is absolutely 100% needed. But I think there's also another shout out to the man, the myth, the legend, Nelson Rosado.
And also Christina, who was so instrumental in helping schedule. podcast. So
That's right.
the whole podcast team deserves credit. We should have the whole podcast team on here for a celebratory.
We should. We should. All right. Well, the obligatory toast of coffee.
Happy 100.
Happy 100. Here's the 100 more.
Agreed. And if you like this episode, please share it. Give us a review. Share the show. Sharing the show helps other people find it. Giving us a review helps other people find it and helps us provide greater content for you, and will help us, make the next 100 even better.
For more information on this show and other resources, visit fastamron.com and connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram @FastAmron.